for Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations, and nice to see you in the chair. And my question is for the Premier. Collapsing the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration into an afterthought in the middle of a global refugee crisis is wrong. Although the ministry has been erased, the issues have not. Ignoring the fact that most asylum seekers and newcomers are not breaking any laws, this government has continued to use divisive and inflammatory language. Calling those who seek refuge or asylum illegals is appalling, and it doesn't absolve this government of responsibility. This government's rash decision to cut provincial refugee resettlement services forces our cities to shoulder the cost of housing and leads to greater costs down the road. Neglecting this humanitarian crisis is not in line with Ontario's values, and it puts the $11 million from the federal government in question. Conflicting reports leave many wondering who this government is working for, what the plan is. So let me ask the Premier clearly, who are you working for, and are you walking away from $11 million?
Thank you. Premier.
Thank you very much, Premier. Thank you very much for the question, and welcome back to the House, and as well to you, Speaker. It's great to see you in that chair. I'd also like to thank the people of Nepean for once again for a fifth time sending me to this legislature. It is the most diverse riding inside the City of Ottawa, where people from all around the world come, live, raise a family, and retire. I'm also proud to be an Ontarian, and I'm proud to be a Canadian. And I'm proud to be a member of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, where we, for the first time, elected 2 Tamil MPs, Logan Kanapathy and Vijay Thangsillam. We elected the first Korean MPP in Raymond Cho, the first Coptic Egyptian Canadian MP, Sharif Sabi, and the 2 Persian Canadian MPPs, Goldie Gamari and Michael Parsa, and many, many more, Speaker. I'll talk about the broken immigration system by the Liberal Party of Canada in the supplementary.
Thank you. Supplementary. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Supplementary, the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. Again to the Premier. Report after report shows that across Ontario there is a growing and long-standing housing crisis. And instead of fixing the crisis, this government has chosen to fearmonger and place the blame on people seeking asylum. But let me be clear to this Premier. The Premier is making things worse. Speaker, just days before being elected, Mr. Ford had a backroom conversation with Mayor Tory and Councillor John Campbell, urging them to stop the city from building a temporary homeless shelter 2 kilometres from his house. This homeless shelter could have provided much-needed temporary housing aid for asylum seekers. So does this Premier think it's appropriate for the Premier of Ontario to intervene in municipal plans for personal gain?
Minister.
We've been perfectly clear, Speaker, that the federal government has an obligation to pay for its failed federal policies. Exactly. This is a situation where we have 800 people in college dormitories on August the 9th that need to be vacated so students can go back into those locations. I asked the member opposite, where does she think they should go? We have a $175 million crisis in order to pay for Toronto housing costs, which are $75 million, Ottawa City's shelter costs, which are $11 million, and in my own department, $90 million on the welfare roll. So we're going to continue to welcome people to Ontario, and we're going to continue to support them. We brought in 36,000 refugees in the last 2 years alone outside of the Syrian refugee crisis. But somebody's going to have to pay for all of that, and it's going to be the federal government. We'd love your support in the Ontario PC Party to talk